this lesson, I'll show you how to install Julia on macOS. So if you are on an Apple machine and you want to run Julia on your local system, this is the lesson for you. Here we have the Julia homepage. We'll see the URL there, julialang.org. The homepage here, you can find a lot of resources on Julia right from this homepage. What we're interested though is the downloads button. I've opened it as a tab at the top. And as of the time of this recording, we have the current release of Julia being version 0.5.0. Now this has just recently come out. The majority of this course was recorded on Julia version 0.4.6. If we go scroll down, before we do this installation, you'll see older releases page there, which if you click on that would open this. So 0.4.7 would be bug fixes only, so the development of 0.4.6, 0.4.7 has stopped, but you can certainly install this version. Irrespective of what you install, we see Windows Self-Extracting Archive, macOS package, generic Linux libraries, and then for Fedora, Red Hat, Enterprise Linux, CentOS, Slackware Linux, there all sorts of different things. So what we're interested in this lecture is the macOS package, which we'll click on just for the download. It will ask you to save this file to your local system, which you can do, which is simply an executable file. When this is downloaded, simply double-click on that file for the installation. Now, depending on how your Mac is set up, it might require you to install an additional package, and it will ask you that to do that during the installation process. That is for users that have not installed the coding system for Apple, and it might ask you then to install the command line version of those tools before it will continue finalizing the installation of Julia. So that is the quick and easy way to install Julia, but unfortunately, if you want it on your local system, that is not the only thing you would need. We can use a command line interface to type Julia commands into and design and run our programs right from there. The majority of the time, as with this course, we are going to use this Project Jupyter's notebook to code in. It is a web technology. In other words, we write our code right inside of a web page. And Jupyter can indeed be used to code a lot of languages in. We can use Julia, also Python, R, and a lot of other languages. Where we would want to go to is just this install button. And once we click on that, this is the page that will open. It will tell you that the biggest prerequisite is the installation of Python. Jupyter was called the IPython Notebook before it changed its name, and the name change was just to reflect the fact that a lot of other languages are now also, it is possible at least to code in other languages with the Jupyter Notebook. The easiest way, and we certainly are going to have a look at that, for your installation of the Jupyter Notebook is to download Anaconda, and we'll look at that in a second. If you already have Python installed on your system, and some systems such as Linux and macOS come with Python pre-installed, scroll down to the bottom and you can see in a command line you can upgrade your PIP package manager, that's your Python package manager, and then just install Jupyter by typing pip3 install Jupyter. And if you have an installation of Python that is the version 2 series, just use pip instead of pip3. If you do not have Python or you want a complete installation of Python, Anaconda really is the way to go. Once you get coding in Julia, you might want to code in other languages. You might already be familiar with other languages, and Python certainly would be one of the most common ones there. And installing Anaconda brings you Python and a bunch, really a plethora of other packages to use with your Python installation. So those would be the two ways. You do have to install Jupyter. That is this beautiful notebook rendered as a web page in which we will do all of our coding. And here we are on the homepage of Continuum Analytics as far as the Anaconda package is concerned. So it is continuum.io/downloads. If you go to Google, you can just type in Continuum. You see the spelling there, CONTINUUM, and Anaconda. It will bring you to this page. As I've mentioned before, Anaconda is a complete installation of Python. Not only do you get Python, but also, as you can read down here, over 720 packages that extends Python or the libraries that are available in Python. One of the packages that will be installed is also the Jupyter Notebook. So instead of installing the Jupyter Notebook on its own, if you already have Python installed, for instance, this is most certainly the way to go. If we scroll down, we can see tabs for Windows, macOS, and Linux. Let's go to the macOS section. First things to decide is whether you're going to install Python the version 2.7 or 3.5. Certainly, if you're not familiar with Python, please go with the newest version. If you already code in Python and you have a lot of packages installed that was built against Python version 2.7, please stick to the 2.7 version. You get a command line and a graphical installer. Certainly the easiest way to go for is the graphical installer. Click on that, and what you would notice is the file will download. Once you double click on that download, the installation will run. Now that installation will take you through a few steps that you have to read, and I advise you to say yes to everything that is asked. If you do that, it will allow Python to be installed in such a way that we can just start it from the command line. So go through that installation. It's quite easy. You have to scroll down pages, unfortunately, to read through a lot of material. But in the end of all of those, please click yes to every question that is asked. Once all this is done, you really have your browser installed, your browser package installed called Jupyter Notebook, in which we will do our coding, and you have Julia installed. Then a few more steps to go, and Julia will be ready to use on your local system. In macOS, we might want to add Julia to our path variables. We are in the Applications folder, and if we go to Utilities, we find the terminal window, certainly what we are looking for. If you were to type in Python, now I have installed the Anaconda version here, so you see I am running Python version 3.5.2. It's an Anaconda custom installation, and I can just type exit, open and close parentheses there, and I'm out. So Python is installed in my system. If I were to type Julia, I wanted Julia to start, but I have to add the path to the Julia executable as a variable. Now the way I would go about that is just to check what is there at the moment. I type $path, and if I hit enter, I see in my bash profile I already have Julia version 0.4.6, the path to that executable in my profile here. If you do not have that, you have to type that in yourself. The way to go about that is to type sudo nano is a text editor that we're going to use to do the editing in, to add that path to Julia. And I'm going to do this little tilde sign on my macOS keyboard. It's shift, the left-sided shift key, and the key right next to that. /bash _ profile. And if I hit enter, it is going to ask for my password. I've already typed that in before this recording started, so it won't ask me to do that again. But because we used the sudo superuser do, you have to type in your password. And this is nano, in which we're going to add the line to our installation. There you can see the path to Python that was added by Anaconda. And this is what I added. This little hash sign there means this is a comment line, which I added myself, just so that I can remember what this was for. This is the line that you want to type in though. Export with a space, uppercase path equals, and then in quotation marks, /applications, /Julia dash, and then the version that you installed. So my installation here was 0.4.6. If you installed 0.4.7, 0.5.0, whatever your installation was when you downloaded Julia and installed Julia by double-clicking on it on the downloaded file, please type in that version. .app/contents/resources/bin/colon $ curly braces path close curly braces and close our quotation marks. That is the line that you have to add to your bash profile. At the bottom here, you'll see what to do. We want to exit. Now, I didn't change anything, so it's not going to ask me to save anything. If this is the first time you changed this bash profile, you might need to add a few, you might need to click save. So I'm going to hold down Control and X for exit. It didn't ask me to save because I didn't change anything, but it will ask you just to save that file. Now, if I were to type Julia from the command line, Julia will start for me. And that is how it is done in macOS. The last thing we need to do, the last step, is just to install iJulia. That is the kernel of Julia that connects to the Jupyter Notebook. It's very easy to add packages in Julia. We've gone into the terminal here. We've typed in Julia because we've added Julia to our path, and we can now start typing. What I want to install is the package, which is uppercase P, KG, package for package, .add, open parentheses, open quotation marks, I, J, both uppercase, and then lowercase Julia. So I and J is capital. Close my quotation marks, close my parentheses, and hit enter. That is going to install iJulia for me. I've already done so, so I won't go through that step. Once that is executed, you have to run a different command, pkg.build. Open iJulia, close, close. So again, in parentheses inside of quotation marks, we type in iJulia with the I and J being uppercase, but it's pkg.build. That will see to it that Julia is built against the Jupyter Notebook that you have, so that we can just use, or at least start, a notebook right from the Julia REPL here. This is what we call the REPL, REPL, where we can just type Julia commands straight in a terminal window such as this. Once that is done, we can start using iJulia. So using iJulia. And once that is done, once that command is run, we can type in notebook, open close parentheses, and hit enter. That is going to open your default browser. Take a second or two to do. It will open your default browser, which is then a Jupyter Notebook into which we can write our Julia code. I'm going to bring that across from my other screen so that you can have a look at it. There we go. Let's just increase the size of that. And there we go. We see in a web page here all of our files on our hard drive. I'll go to Dropbox. From Dropbox, I've got a folder here, Julia Coursera, and there are all my files. To start a new notebook, I would go to New, and we see I have R installed as a kernel, and I have my Python Anaconda, and my default Python here, and Julia 0.4.6. There we go, a new notebook will open up. Let's just increase the size of that. And there's a Jupyter Notebook running a Julia 0.4.6 kernel through the use of iJulia, and we can start typing our code. Plus 2,2. I'm going to hold down Shift and hit Enter, and that is going to evaluate the plus function, adding 2 and 2, and I get 4. Julia installed on your macOS local system, ready for you to use.